Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Jay LaValle, Joe Wrestling, and Wednesday Wisdom. Again, I have another special guest. Crazy because I had my second or third one last week with Ethan Ramos of Puerto Rico national team. And this week, I have another special guest. I have Jesse Porter. He is a USA Olympian in Greco-Roman at 77 kilograms. I believe it's the hardest weight in the world and the hardest weight in the United States. And Jesse has an impeccable resume of accomplishments. I would say one of the greatest things on here is the 2021 U.S. Olympic Trials champion. He defeated Peyton Walsh of the Marine, I think he's Marine Corps. And he was also 2018, 19, and 2020 U.S. World Team Trials at the U23 level. And then he was a two-time state placer in New York. How you doing, Jesse?
I'm doing great, man. I really am. Great day for me. Lots of progress made, as always, right? And I'm just really excited for the next couple of years, to be honest, because I've made lots of strides in the last 6 months in pretty much every department. So, and I'm excited to talk about it with you. I got some really great things to say that I've been kind of preaching lately to whoever will listen. and because I basically came to this sort of epiphany like 6 months ago, and it's kind of led me, on the path that I've been. But lots of stuff to talk about.
That's amazing. I think it's important when you really fully believe in something, and then obviously when you believe in yourself, you believe what you're doing, and then getting that message out there. Even if nobody's listening, you hope obviously people are going to listen, but even if that's even like I feel like even the more important time to do it is when nobody's listening, because guess what? They're all going to start listening at some point. And so I'm glad you're on. I'm glad to be able to hear what you have to share, and super excited.
Yeah. I'll get right to it, because, we talk about COVID-proof training because that was like item number one, right? The COVID-proof training, I think what would surprise a lot of people is that it's the thing that's most important about it is actually not the training itself, right? It's actually the mental aspect that I got from basically all the events that happened in 2020. See, I feel kind of grateful that all the events that happened to me in 2020 happened to me, because if they had not happened to me, then I don't know if I would have been forced to think the way I thought in that year. In 2020, before 2020, pre-2020, pre-COVID, right? All I knew was school and wrestling. And that's all I did every day, 24 hours, right? School and wrestling. That's all I knew how to do. And I got very comfortable doing those things, right? I feel like, I'm getting my degree and I'm training, to be an Olympic champion. That's what I'm doing, right? And that's what I thought I was doing. And then all of a sudden COVID comes along, right? COVID comes along, and there's this long period of time where there was no wrestling and there was no school, right? Just right out.
On.
Now what do I do now, right? It's like that was my whole thing. That's all I knew how to do, right?
So you went home. You had to go home.
I went home, right?
School sent you home.
So basically, I decided that it'd be the best decision because they closed everything down and all my resources were basically gone, pulled from the college. So there was no reason for me to stay there. So that's why I came back. And school was closed, they had to temporarily pull that as well, right? So I was at home just sitting and just thinking. I had a lot of time to think to myself and a lot of time to actually think about the really important questions, which is, why am I doing what I'm doing, right? Why am I doing what I'm doing? And after thinking about that, and then basically since I had a computer and a phone just surfing around on the internet, I found out a lot of things, right? I started to explore some of these things, these other options that were outside of the bubble that I'd basically been brought up in. And what my conclusion was from all that is that, I need to have a stronger why, right? I need to know why it is I'm doing the things I'm doing, right? So I sat down for a really long time just pondering and thinking, like, why am I doing all this? And more importantly, what do I want? Right. I thought about these things really hard for a really long time. And this was really what made the rock solid motivation that I have today. Right. That's what developed it. And that turned into me being extremely motivated throughout my training. And my training just went through the roof. Right. My training just went through the roof because I had repositioned myself. I'd reoriented myself because I'd actually given myself the time, which literally 99% of people don't do, which is
Right.
one of the, I talk about this so often. 99% of the people don't actually give themselves the time to sit down and ask them, why am I doing the things that I'm doing every single day? Like, why am I doing them? Right? What do I actually want? Right. And so, since I did give myself the time to do that, I developed that rock solid motivation. That rock solid motivation helped propel me to do better at my training. And it helped me find ways in order to stay relevant while I was at home without any partners. And that's really that was 90% of my success right there. The
That
other
the
10%,
mindset.
right, exactly. The other 10% was really just me using what was in front of me, right? I had a dummy, I had some ropes, and I had some mats. Not everybody has that. And I realized that. I was like, you know what? I got this in my basement, right? I'm gonna use it. And you know what? I also have tapes. I have specific tapes I can do. YouTube. I can create a playlist of my opponents. I can do lots of different things, right? And I mix them all together, and that's really and then I did it consistently up until the trials.
Right.
But like I said, this wouldn't have been possible if I didn't have the motivation that I had created from that time that I sat down, thought about those things. I would not have the same drive, and I would have probably ended up finishing 25% of what I finished, right? Just wouldn't have been able to get through. I would have got distracted, just like, I'm just not feeling it, right? Because
Right.
that's kind of how it was before. Because even though I wanted to become an Olympic champion and I wanted to do well in school, right? I didn't exactly know why I was doing the things I was doing. I was just doing them, and
Yeah,
that is really a big issue.
you
So
get
that's
into
one of
this.
the most important things I want to get into. Is that I figured out my why. I figured out my why, and that why still drives me to this day.
That's amazing. And many people, like you said, they don't sit down and try and figure out the why. Their why, a lot of times you'll hear people ask, well, why are you doing it? Well, I love it. Well, that's more like an intrinsic type of answer. It's loving something isn't, I feel like it's enough. And I've asked same thing happened to me. All the things you're talking about happened with me as well. Um, and I don't know what mine was, but I knew it had a bigger purpose than myself. And that's what sort of drove me. I'm curious, what did you find out from you asking yourself why?
Yeah. So, you know, I think the biggest thing, right? The biggest thing. I don't know how many people are watching. I don't know what kind of audience you have, right? But I can tell you that, for me, in order to get a really, really strong motive, a rock solid motive, like the motive that only 1% of people have on this entire planet, right? You have to think big picture, gigantic picture, right? And
Yeah.
then once you think gigantic picture, you actually come down from there, which is what trips most people up because people like to start at the comfort area and then work out of there,
Yeah.
right? They like to start where they're comfortable with and then work out of there. When really it's the opposite. You have to start out here
Yeah.
and then work back to get to where you are now to know what actions you need to do in order to get from here to here, point A to point B, right?
Yep.
So I fought with myself for a while because our brains do this. They hold us back. They go, wait a minute. That's not comfortable. I don't think you can do that. Like, who are you to think that you can do that? Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, if you tell people that, people are going to think you're crazy. Like,
Yep.
and you have to fight that because really our brains are not wired for success. They're wired to keep us safe, right? So when you realize that, you have to kind of temper it and say, you know what? this is the natural duality of having a large goal. The duality is you have a large goal, and with that large goal comes doubt, right?
Yep.
So my large goal, right, has to do with science fiction, has to do with number one, ending aging, right? Crazy, right? Way out there. And number two,
Nice.
super intelligent. Oh yeah, right? Super intelligence. These are two things that are controversial. A lot of people don't believe them. A lot of people think they're like so out there they don't even cross people's minds, right? But
Right.
there are lots of people that actually do believe this can happen.
Yeah.
They exist on this planet. People walking around today that actually think, just like me, think these things can happen, right?
Yeah.
Now, those are so big and so unrelated to wrestling somehow, right? Like that's what I was thinking when I first thought them. But what I did is I worked down from them and got all the way down to my Olympic championship, my world titles. And then I started working down from there. I worked all the way down to where I am now. And then I started saying, okay, what actions do I need to take in order to chip away at that doubt every single day?
Mm.
So every single action that I do every single day, the doubt that I have in my head that comes with that dream, I take a little bit more off. And I just keep doing that. You just keep doing that consistently every single day with all the actions that you have.
And
But
that's
yeah,
uncomfortable.
that's what it is. That's everything, you know. And once I, yeah, go ahead.
That's uncomfortable.
Say again.
That's a very uncomfortable thing sometimes to, I think, face your doubts head on and chop them away, because most people face their doubt, or they see it, or it like speaks to them internally, and they back away from it because it scares them. But that's what
Oh yeah.
you're talking about, this mindset of doing a really of being very, very, I'd say, um thinking global. You're thinking very global and then drilling down.
You have
You have
you have there's no other way to get to the strong motivation.
it's the
There's no
opposite.
other way
Yeah.
because you have to think gigantic picture,
Yep.
right? Because the small picture is not going to motivate you the same way.
Nope.
Everybody wants to grab onto the realistic goal, right? They want to be comfortable saying it to people, right? They want to be like, oh yeah, I want to do this, and have people go, oh yeah, I think you can do that, right? And feel all good and warm inside about it, right? like that goal is not going to motivate you to work extremely hard every single day, no matter what. Okay, it's not. So my goal is all encompassing. It's not just that, it's other things too. It's everything I could possibly want, all bundled into one package. And that's what I'm going for. Right. And for me, it's not just about that, or for everybody, right? It's about knowing that and then creating a plan and then executing it. Right. Knowing it, knowing what you want, creating a plan, executing it. If you do those three things, whatever you want will be yours, period. End of story. I said this on Twitter before too. I'm not a religious person at all. Like not even a little bit. I never had any religion when I grew up. I just didn't, right?
Right,
So I'm
right.
not I don't like pray to God or whatever. Oh God, this, God, that. I don't do any of that, right? But if there's one thing that I follow like a religion, it's that anything is possible. That one thing, that's my religion.
Yeah.
My religion, something that I believe completely, no matter what, right, is that anything is possible. And so that's the only thing that you need to know. That's really the only belief part of it, right? We talk about, it's a leap of faith. That's your only leap of faith that you have to take with this. Everything else is technical. Everything else is practical. Everything else it has hard facts that can back it up, right?
Right.
This thing, though, believing that anything is possible, that's something that you have to choose to do. You have to choose to believe that. So once people actually get that part that I just talked about, they'll be able to do things like I did.
Sure.
Sky is the limit once you understand that.
But you had to have developed some type of level of confidence, maybe to get to this point. Do you think because I'm going to rewind a little bit, 2000 and maybe 13, I met you, believe it or not, in Maryland. You were at the East Coast Duels in Maryland with New York and wrestled. And when I saw you wrestle, I'm like, oh, this guy can throw. And then later that summer, I saw you in Fargo, and I think I briefly just said, hey, good job, and you remembered me from East Coast Duels. When I was watching you wrestle and I was watching you warm up, you already seemed like you had this level of confidence about you. Do you believe something from there that you've already had helped you get to that point when COVID began and you had to basically figure out your why?
Yeah, I do. I think that I've been blessed to kind of been in this area that, sorry, my fan just turned on. I'm going to unplug that for a second. Anyway, yeah, but I think I've been lucky, right? I think we've all been lucky to a certain extent. But I think I've been very lucky to be born around an area with, good parents and, a good upbringing that, was good enough that it allowed me to kind of make a substantially confident, what's the word I'm looking for? Persona, right?
Right.
Up at an early age. And, honestly, I like that, but even more so, I think just the sport of wrestling alone probably contributed the most to my confidence.
Yeah.
Right. I think that if anybody stays in wrestling long enough, really absorbs it, they will become this kind of person that has the same foundation that I did. Like even back then, yeah, I was definitely not the person I am now.
Sure.
Like I'm about 100 times more than the person that I was back then, right?
Yeah.
Just from the last 6 months. But I had the foundation there. You're right. And you noticed it, right? I had the foundation there. But I think that anybody that gets into wrestling and soaks up the lessons, right? And soaks up all the lessons from all the greats, Dan Gable, John Smith, right? All the greats in wrestling, they soak up all those lessons. They listen to every word they say. Cale Sanderson, right? Jordan Burroughs, Kyle Dake, you listen to all these guys. You're going to have that foundation. You're going to have that foundation without a doubt. So I don't think that's something that is, unique to me. I think that's something that everybody can get from wrestling.
Yeah, that's a great point. Wrestling is I'd say one of the few sports that helps individuals with upward mobility, and that you're talking about confidence. Confidence is absolutely gained from wrestling. You have no choice. And if you quit, you're not gonna absorb that confidence like you were talking about. But if you stay with it through all the failures, I mean, there's a lot of failure in wrestling. Then that's when I feel like that's when that confidence starts growing, and you start listening to people like yourself. This stuff right now, this is gold. People are gonna look at this, they're gonna listen to it and realize he's saying all the things that I already think, but I'm not taking action on them. And I feel like that's sometimes missing in our sport. People say things, people listen to it, but how can you get them to take action on it? Well, they look at somebody like you now. They look at your story. It's amazing. So that mindset of yours, man, it's crazy because my following ended up being people all around the world, and they're following me doing workouts. And it started just with a couple people, and then it ended up being like about 50 people. My training was more geared to the physical part of it. Yours was the mental, because you're training yourself. You're training for the Olympics. I'm training people to stay in touch with wrestling. I wasn't really getting them anywhere. I was just making sure that they were connected to wrestling. I wanted them to have a place to feel safe, that place to learn, a place where they have a resource in myself. And if it wasn't me, I could get them somewhere. You said yourself, your training was like, the mental part was like 90%. The physical part was like 10%. What were you doing?
Yeah.
You literally only had a dummy, a rope, a bike. When I heard your interview and you said that, I'm like, this is what we've been doing. And I told all my students, this is what we've been doing. And look at what this guy just did. Um,
I'm gonna tell you something really funny. I'm gonna tell you something really funny. The funny thing is that when I had my TikTok, right, for the last 6 months, right, I've had this TikTok for over a year, right? And pretty much every day, almost every day, a lot of the days that I was training up into the trials, I went live on TikTok. I was live, literally broadcasting what I was doing while I was
really,
training. And a lot, nobody knew who I was. Nobody knew what I was doing because nobody knows about Greco,
right,
right?
right.
So they didn't know my name. They didn't know what I was doing. They didn't know what I was training. And I didn't really tell them because it's just, I don't know. Sometimes I get a lot of amusement out of the fact that they don't know who I am. I
That
just
is
let it
pretty
roll.
funny.
I just let it roll, right? And then some people will say, "Oh, he looks like a knockoff Jordan Burroughs," and it's just funny because
Oh, okay.
yeah, yeah. It's funny because I just talked to Jordan Burroughs the day before, right? And then I tell him what they say, and he'd laugh and everything. It's just funny, but like I was training in my basement, doing the things that I do, and I was broadcasting it live, and I'm going to do that more in the future too. I just what I do, right? But I just think that's funny because like only like 2 or 3 people would show up, right? And they wouldn't know what the hell's going on. But that's how it goes. Like it's just a very simple thing, and everybody wants to know what I'm doing, right? And it's just ironic because I was broadcasting it the whole time.
That's crazy. And I never saw you. That's the other crazy part. I never saw you on there. I don't think I saw your account until around the trials. I think maybe around the trials.
Yep, yep. I just set it up every time I went down there, or I even set it up after when I was studying, and I just kind of like set it up and preach to people that wanted to listen, right? If anybody came in and started
Sure.
talking about wrestling, start dropping wisdom bombs on them.
That's
So
amazing. That's amazing. And so you're gonna try and start doing that again. Because what's going on right now? You were out in where were you? Bulgaria? No, you went to Bulgaria
yeah,
and you had a crazy whole thing around that because you missed your flight because I remember that because they wouldn't accept your paperwork for COVID, right? Or your test.
yeah. So what happened was is that I got there, and they would the test that I took. We asked everybody around. We asked the airport. Or we asked the laboratory or the scientist, right? We asked everyone. We're like, hey, is this one going to work at the airport? Are they going to accept this one? They said, oh yeah, sure, they'll accept that. Yeah, you're good to go, right? Get there. No, we can't accept this. know?
Unbelievable.
They can't accept it, right? And so we're calling the laboratory like, hey, you guys told us they can accept this. And they're like, oh, that must have been the people before. You're talking to somebody new. I don't know what you're talking about, right? And I was like, okay, yeah, well, can you get us a new one? And they probably went to the other guy, and the other guy is like, what's going on? Somebody wants something? Just tell them we don't have it, right? I can already hear it, right? That's probably what happened at that laboratory because it took forever for them to get it to us. But when they finally did, we had already missed our first flight, and we had to get delayed a couple of days, right? And that put it so that I only had like a day to
Right.
readjust, ready to wrestle. Also, I had to cut weight at the airport now, right? So I had to cut weight at the airport, and then when I got there, I had to get all my foods and everything ready as fast as possible. Get all my credentials, and then get ready to wrestle. So there's some talk, and I don't know, maybe be right, like that I had some jet lag, the second match. Maybe that's why I got a little bit tired. And it's highly possible. Yeah, it could be possible because I did have only like one day to get ready.
Right.
But that's neither here nor there. You got to make it happen no matter what, anyway. So I don't really care about that. But like, when it comes down to it, it was a crazy experience. But I was so hyped up that I just didn't care what was happening. I'm just gonna get there and fight. That's all I knew. I'm
I
gonna get
remember that.
there. I'm gonna. So
I remember that. And that's a lot of adrenaline going through you, getting ready for that thing. I mean, that's a lot on the line and that's a hard way to do it with that type of scenario around it.
Yeah, absolutely.
trying not to be stressed out about even getting there, but probably stressed a little bit inside.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, like there's always stress, it's just something that I learned to deal with. But you asked what I'm doing now, and I have World Team Trials in September that I'm going to be training for. But right now, I got injured that last camp, so I'm recovering from that right now. I'll be recovering from this injury probably for about a month or so, and then I'll be right back to training. Right after that. So I'll be ready to go by World Team Trials, but just a little recovery period here. Injuries, like I wasn't stirred at all when this injury happened. I was just like, oh, okay, we got another thing. All right, yeah. How do I get past it and then get better?
Right.
That's what I was.
Exactly.
That's the only thing I was thinking about. And when you get on this level, I pretty much every wrestler is good at that at this level. Something happens and they go, okay, yeah, but how do I make that a positive? Right? And like, this is the first thing we think. It's like, but how is that a good thing? It's like, no, it's not a good thing. Like, it's not. You broke your leg. It's like, yeah, but how is it a good thing though? Like, just tell me, how is it a good thing? And we just keep doing that.
So you were at the Atlanta camp, the Olympic camp in Atlanta,
Yes, I was. Yep.
because I saw you training with Jordan. He was doing Greco with you. That was awesome. How was that?
Yeah. That was fun. I just saw him over there, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make him wrestle Greco, and I'm gonna tape it and make a video. That's what I was like. That's what I thought. That's just what I thought. I was like, me and Jordan are really good friends, so like, he knows. And like, he was down with it and everything. And wrestling to him was fun because like he brings his freestyle tenacity, right, and he applies it to his hands, right. And so he was clubbing on my head, right, with his hands. His hands were moving fast, so it was difficult. Like, I had to keep him off me. I had to move pretty fast just to keep his hands off of me, so I could actually get to my attacks. When I was doing the video, we kind of just like messing around, but like before that, I was actually wrestling him. So
Wow.
like, but yeah, we were actually wrestling there. I won, but obviously, like, he doesn't know Greco, so like.
Right. Now, people that don't know about Greco, I mean, I'm sure, most of my people that are watching, they're wrestlers and they know Greco, but maybe tell, somebody that's looking up Jesse Porter and they see this video, tell them, what Greco, means to you, how you got into it, and really from a different level of as if somebody didn't even know anything about Greco. They only knew wrestling. They only knew a little bit about wrestling, high school wrestling.
Yeah. Okay. Well, first of all, Greco is all upper body, right? Not using your legs in Greco. That's one of the biggest things. Greco can, notoriously be more tiring than freestyle or folk style because you have to keep pressure on consistently all the time. There's no breaks, right? I think with Greco, there are a lot more opportunities for high amplitude throws. You'll see that a lot more in Greco, because that's just kind of the nature of the technique. I think that for anybody that's in high school doesn't know anything about Greco, first of all, doing Greco at an early age, for me, doing all three styles helped me to become a better wrestler. And so I think it's really important for you to do all three styles, especially even if you want to go into the UFC after, right? Let's say if you want to go to the UFC after, the wrestlers do good already in the UFC, but the wrestlers that do the best in the UFC are the ones that did all three styles, right?
Yep.
Those are the ones that try, right? Those are the ones that end up taking titles, right? Yep. So I think that, especially at an early age, it's important to do all three styles, and especially Greco. Our Greco program continues to grow, and I think that it really is the future for, United States wrestling, especially when, women's Greco comes along, which it will very soon.
Yep.
When women's Greco comes along, you're going to see Greco just take right off. So
that's a good point. And women's wrestling already is like it's crushing every other sport in the United States. But when people women's Greco hits the mainstream and they see women, I don't know. I love Greco because of the throws are just, they're amazing. Because I know I've lifted somebody off the ground and threw them over my head. It's hard, but I feel like people don't really understand that. But when they see a woman do that, they are gonna, it will bring more interest to the whole sport.
Yep. Yep. And I really think that once that energy comes to Greco as a whole, the Greco guys are going to start to pick up as well, right? We're going to start to pick up the pace. We're going to start to match it, right? You know, they're going to see the energy coming in. They're going to see the eyes coming in. They're going to be like, wait a minute, I can get some of that, you know? And we're going to pick up. I know I am. I'm going to pick up my pace a little bit in every aspect, you know, how exciting wrestling I am, you know, the firepower, the power, you know, the way I'm wrestling, the excitement in my matches is going to increase. And I think that, you know, all the other little things with my meme page and like fanfare, I plan to increase that as well. So, you know, I'm going to stay really competitive with the girls Greco as well. So
nice. You're already anticipating it.
oh yeah.
Already
No, I'm not
anticipating it and ready to grow with it.
anticipating it. I'm creating it.
Nice.
I'm creating. I'm promoting it. If you ever watch my page, like Elite Wrestling Memes, you know, I promote it all the time over there, you know, because I want it to happen sooner rather than later, because the sooner the better. The sooner the better we get that going, we're going to get, you know, that energy coming into Greco. It's only going to do good things. You know, you want all of that controversy that comes with it, right? All those eyes like, you know, women's Greco, right? You want all that. That's all great stuff. You just take that and it's just like it's like a match lighting your fuse. So
yeah, that's exactly right. And you have a sister that wrestles, is that right?
I have two sisters that wrestle. Yeah,
You
I have two
do?
sisters that. Yeah. One of them has been out for a while. Alexis
Okay.
Porter. She's been out for a while, but my little sister, she's still active, and she's still actively training, and you know, she'll be out on the scene pretty soon. She was actually at Last Chance. She was at Last Chance. So she did wrestle in that. You know, she's still kind of working her way up. You know, she's a little bit behind because, you know, in the early years, she just wasn't into it as much as, you know, me and Alexis were.
Sure.
So,
And that's okay. You know, everybody has a different road to get there. And once they're on that road, I feel like you said, anything is possible. You know, your sister, I think I knew you had a sister, Alexis, because she was supporting you obviously 100%. I see her presence on Twitter mostly, but she said something absolutely that was mind blowing to me the other day on Twitter. And I blasted everywhere. I was hoping people would like share it, but I was very disappointed that people didn't. But she said she had to raise her own bar because her dreams weren't big enough to scare her. That sounds almost just like this, almost the same type of things that you're talking about too. Like we're going back to that mindset. You guys cut from the same cloth. Your parents obviously have driven that type of self-belief in you guys. Is there a lot of influence there? Did you have was your dad your coach or something?
yeah, my dad is my coach. Yeah, my dad's been my
Ah,
coach for life, right? Yeah, and you know, for Alexis, you know, I really think that most of that line of thinking did come from me, because literally before she left, I had the same talk that I'm having with you guys with her. I just knew that it was the most important thing, right? I know that this information that I carry is probably life-changing information for a lot of people, as
yeah,
long if they listen to it. You know, I could change people's lives, and I always think about that when I meet strangers or when I'm talking to people anywhere, any people that I see. You know, especially on the airport too, like on the plane, right? If I could tell them one thing to move their life in a positive direction, I'll do it, right? And I think that this is the one thing that has the largest potential to move them in the right direction. So before my sister left to go back to, you know, college, I told her, like, hey, you got to figure out what you want. Okay. Sit down and give yourself the chance to figure out what you want and why you want it. Okay. Be patient. Be patient. Really figure it out. right? Don't let your mind back out of it, right? Don't
Right.
let your mind go, hey, wait. What's going on? I don't like this. This is uncomfortable. Like, we don't usually do this. What? Where's our coffee? Where's the like? Where's our Netflix? Like, your mind starts to do that. It wants to go
Yeah.
back to that comfort space. It doesn't look like looking at all these big scary things. But that's the only thing that motivates you. It really is. So
Yeah, it has to come from within. And, I think at your level, at the Olympic level, professional level, elite athletes, they're very self-motivated. And if they're not, they probably haven't found their why, and they probably don't know why. I feel like, especially in the United States, sometimes, I'm sure in other countries, athletes sort of fall in this track of, okay, going to high school, win my 4 state titles, get a scholarship to Division I college, and then I'm going to do the Olympics. But it almost should be like you're saying, look at it from a global perspective and then work backwards. And if they did that logically, they wouldn't care about all the other stuff. To me, they wouldn't care about the 4 state titles. They wouldn't care about going to college and wrestling in folk style in college. They would care more about going on the world level and winning an Olympic title in Greco or freestyle. So
yeah, and there's a lot of people, right? There's been a lot of people that actually gone their whole life without actually doing what I just described, right? There are lots of people that have gone their whole life without going and sitting down and figuring out what they want. They just stay in that comfort zone that I talked about and kind of just do mindless stuff throughout the day. Don't go too far out, right? They have little tiny goals, right? They have tiny goals and they achieve those goals. They feel good about them temporarily, and then they need something else, right? They get that, they feel good about it temporarily, and then they get to go to something else. Then they pacify themselves with entertainment,
right.
pacify. There are so many distractions. They're all over the place. There are plenty of things that you can pacify yourself with to get you away from your big goals nowadays. It's so easy, right? There's, sex, money, drugs, right? All this other stuff that you just focus on these other little things, and they just take your mind away. And then before you know it, your time is up.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that's the regret people have, when they get older. And sometimes when we're younger, we don't understand when people say, well, you're going to regret that if you don't do this, you're going to regret it. And people don't understand when they're young because they don't have these conversations that you're talking about with themselves. Little things, even for myself. I stopped drinking coffee because I felt like it was just something I didn't need anymore. And this was just about 6 months ago. It was after the new year. It wasn't like a resolution. It was just like one day I'm like, what can I eliminate from my life?
Yeah.
What can I eliminate from my life? That
I love that. Yeah.
I like coffee. I like the way it tastes, but what can I eliminate from my life that is, I don't know, there's comfort in it. And that's what it was. All's it was when I got my espresso. Oh, this is so good. It was just like a maybe temporary comfort, and I wanted to get out of that. So
yes,
it's not easy to have those conversations and do those things.
Exactly. It's not easy, but when you find your why, your mind changes and it starts to say, it's not easy, but it's necessary. It's necessary. And then it doesn't matter anymore.
No, that's exactly right.
And I'll even venture to say that it becomes easier.
Yes.
I'll venture to say that it becomes easier, even though it doesn't. It does, because you don't care anymore.
You don't care.
You don't care.
More disciplined.
Yes, you become more disciplined. You just know that it's necessary to reach that larger vision. All your larger vision, it fills your mind, it fills your veins, your eyes. It's always in your head. It fills your it's like the lens that you see everything through. You're saying, how is everything that I'm doing leading up to my goal, right? How is this helping my goal? I want to plug here too. Also, how many people are watching right now? You got a lot of people in live here?
There's a few here. let me see. I have a question. Cool interview. I should have looked at these before. He just got done with practice. I'm glad he made it. You must have been live, right? Were you live?
Yeah. Did somebody say that?
Because somebody just said he just got done with practice and you made it on.
Yeah.
Who is that, Joe? That is Jesse Porter. For anybody who's just joining the TikTok live, I have Jesse Porter, Olympian, on here, and we're chatting. Awesome stuff because he's bringing a different angle, I feel like, to the sport of wrestling. I feel like, wrestling to people from the outside is just, somebody getting their hand raised and somebody walking off the mat and losing, but it's way more than that. There's stuff behind the scenes, obviously, that, you're talking a lot about it right now. The stuff behind the scenes, I feel like, that don't get the type of attention and emphasis in order to get to where you want to go. And, we can talk about training all day. I love, that aspect of it, but it ultimately is the mindset that's going to help you get there. And so Jesse's been sharing a lot of that information for people that, may also have those type of aspirations and dreams, but they don't know how to get there. One thing that really, I think, stands out also, Jesse, that I feel like separates you from other athletes, and I've also heard this in track and field. Athletes are sort of like creators, and their performance, I feel like wrestling is a performance. It's not just you going out there and trying to win, because win or lose, you can have a great performance, win or lose. You can have a bad performance and win, but if you're going out there to put on a good performance, it's almost like a work of art, and you're a creator, you're an artist. And I think I've actually heard you say this as well. Do you want to share some information about that, or what your thoughts are?
Yeah, I can. I wanted to plug real quick just for anybody that's watching right now. I actually do mindset sessions with Wrestling Mindset, and that's somewhere where I talk about everything that I'm talking about, but I walk you through like step by step. We do sessions every day to kind of move you along that path of everything that I just talked about, right? And so I kind of help you make sure that you're on the right path every single day. And there's many other things that I can tell you as well that I didn't mention here, but I just wanted to plug that in there just for anybody that would be interested in that. But going back to what you said.
But wait, back up. That's Z Mindset.
Yeah, Z Wrestling Mindset. Yep.
Nice. The Zanetti brothers. I like them.
Yeah. Yep. I work with them. I'm one of their mentors there. So awesome. I do that. You can sign up with them and then ask for me, right? Sign up with them, ask for me, and then you can get me, and then I'll be working with you one-on-one to kind of like do that. So I just wanted to mention that just so that people have that opportunity.
Absolutely. Glad
yeah. With the art, I did talk about that before, and what I said was that the mat is our canvas, right? Yeah. The mat is our canvas, and we are the brush, and we are creating our art on that mat. That is our art. The wrestling is the art. That's why it's called martial arts, right? Yep. And I think that a lot of people don't realize that our art really does carry this value. This is our art, and our art takes years and years of dedication to create. It takes years and years of sacrifice, lots of sacrifice and dedication in order to create our art. And I just really think that the reason that people don't understand it is because it's not popular, and a lot of people aren't actually vocal about it. There's not enough people vocal about how wrestling is treated in comparison to other sports. Sure. And for me, I think that yes, I've always grown up as the person where you just talk with your wrestling, right? Talk with your actions, not with your mouth, right? And I've always grown up that way, and I believe in that, right? But for me, I feel like what's the problem with doing both? Right. Like for me, I feel like, hey, I'm gonna talk and then I'm gonna back it up. I'm gonna talk, right. I'm gonna back it up. I'm gonna do both. Because you know what? when you do both, you speak louder anyways.
Yep.
It's like it amplifies what you're doing,
Right.
right? Because people want to see, oh, is he going to follow that up? People want to see that, right? So, and when you've created the amount of confidence that I have because of those things that I mentioned earlier, you'll be able to do these things. I always wondered, right? I always looked at these other fighters like Conor McGregor, and I'm like, how is he able to like say all that stuff and know he's going to win? And like, what doesn't he worry about like losing or something? Like, I used to think about that when I was younger, right?
Sure.
Or any other like Muhammad Ali and people like that, right? And then I realized after 6 months ago, right? Then I started to get it. I was like, oh, I was like, now I get it. Now I get it. Yeah, with this kind of confidence, with this kind of motivation, yeah, I can say it because I know it's gonna happen.
Right.
Like that's pretty much all there is. When you have the right motivation that, like I said, only 1% of people have, it allows you to say those things because what's the difference if you know you're gonna do them anyways?
Right.
You're gonna know, you're gonna do them. What difference does it make?
Exactly.
So,
yeah. That's awesome. And you're right. I feel like there's not enough people that are amplifying their voice about the type of things that you're talking about. And, the way wrestling could be a performance, and our mat is the canvas. I feel like that could be developed more and spoken about more to get more of the mainstream involved watching and engaged. I feel like that's the biggest piece. Wrestling people engage with each other all the time, but that's all fine. But if we're not engaging with people outside the sport, bringing them in, we're not going to get more fans. We're not going to get more participants and athletes. So that's that also sounds like you're a creator off the mat too, with your TikTok. Talk about your TikTok. You said you've been on TikTok for about a year and you're going live on your TikTok. Well, you're still going live. I need to get on there and watch you because I've never seen you go live.
I'm gonna be going live a lot more in the future, especially when I start implementing some of these tactics that I'm gonna use to boost my TikTok. I'll be going live a lot more, and with the lives, sometimes it'll just be I'll just live and I'll be doing something boring, right? Because I just posted, right? Like I live today and I was just like making my food and putting a bag of ice on my knee, right?
Nice.
But if somebody comes in and they said something, I talk to them, right? So that's basically it, right? If they ask questions while I'm doing this stuff, yeah, I'll just talk. But other than that, I'll do workouts, right? So I'll also do the lives when I do my workouts. So those are usually the times that I go live. But with my Elite Wrestling memes, that's my TikTok, and then Elite Wrestling memes. I also have an Instagram too. And yeah, I've had this for over a year now. I've had the Instagram for over a year. I almost have had the TikTok for a year. TikTok I got a little bit later, but the reason I started it in the first place was as comic relief for me, because I thought that it was funny. It would be funny to create a meme page and make fun of all the things that wrestlers go through, right? All this stupid stuff that wrestlers go through, like oh, wrestling, you mean with the chairs, or all this other little stuff, like, oh, why do you guys wear those leotards? All those jokes, right? All those jokes, I like throwing those in there and making memes for them. And also, later on, I realized that, I'm actually helping promote wrestling with this. Mm-hmm. I kind of came to that realization later on, and I was like, I made that my motive, and I made a little, what's it called? Mission statement, right? Called a mission statement. And it's like, working to make wrestling the most popular sport, one meme at a time, right?
Nice.
That's my mission statement now for that page, and that's really my goal with that page too. That's like the goal that all my followers know about, right? That's like the dream for that page, right? For that page, that's the dream for that page. And it's kind of like the page has its own persona now, right? The page is kind of taking its own persona. It's not about me, right? The page is not about me, not about Jesse Porter. It's about the content. It's about the dream of having wrestling be the most popular sport in the world, right? This is a global stage, right? In the world. That's what the dream is for that page. And everybody knows it, everybody knows that's the dream. I make memes about that too. But yeah, I really think that wrestlers need to start becoming more vocal about how they feel about how they're being treated, you know? Like they need to start talking about it more. They need to start saying, hey, we need to demand to get paid too. You need to start demanding.
Sure.
Businesses are so used to not paying wrestlers, you know? They're so used to not paying wrestlers, and they're so like, oh yeah, come over here, do this, do that, do that, do that. You need to pay us, okay? Wrestlers need to get paid. I've been a very big advocate for that, right? So, moving forward, I think that it's very important that we're vocal about that certain thing, and a lot of people will say, hey, you don't get paid because you don't contribute to society. Well, we're going to do that too, okay? We're going to start contributing more in a lot of different ways. You have to do more to get more, right? And I realize that. And what I do to do more, right, is I'm becoming a better wrestler. And on top of that, I'm also creating with my meme page. I found another creative way to just add more, be more,
Sure.
right? And then I'm going to continue to demand that I need to be paid, right? I'm going to continue to demand that and continue to do more. I'm doing both. I'm continuing to demanding that I get paid, and I'm continuing to do more. Those two things, I really think that wrestlers should continue to do both of those two things.
Yep.
Do more, continuously find ways to do more, and continuously demand to be paid, right? I think good things will happen.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, number one, we have a responsibility to do more for our sport. Our sport is giving all of us so much. Even I had never reached your level of wrestling, but I still feel so grateful for what it's done for me, the confidence. And I feel like it's my obligation to give back and to help promote it and to bring awareness and educate people. That I feel like that's so, so important. And athletes for sure need to be paid. There's I don't know there's probably some athletes that are getting paid, but not all of them are getting paid. And that's part of the problem. Everybody's training very hard, and probably everybody's training similarly, putting the same amount of volume, same amount of intensity, same amount of blood, sweat, and tears. And some are getting paid more, and some are not getting paid, and some are maybe getting a little bit. And
bottom line is, you look at a sport like football and you compare it to wrestling, we're not even in the same universe.
no,
Not even in the same universe with opportunities. I don't care who's getting paid in wrestling right now or who has more followers and what. They're all getting screwed. Every single one of them. Yeah. I don't care who you are. If you're a wrestler, you are getting screwed. Okay, because the amount of work that you put in, right, to get wrestling, that would get you tenfold in football.
Yep.
So it's not even close. Don't act like it's close, because it's not. I hate when people try to act like it's close, or like, well, wrestlers, Jordan Bales gets this. No. It is not even close. Not even laughable how much more opportunity football, soccer, pretty much every other ball sport.
It's millions versus pennies. It's literally
exactly.
Million. The ratio is like millions versus pennies. It's laughable in some ways, but it's sad. And that's part of the reason why athletes need to speak up. Coaches need to speak up. Advocates need to speak up.
Right. There's two things, right? There's two things. It's speaking up and then doing more.
Yes.
Nobody's going to listen unless you're not doing it, right? So it's speaking up, doing more. And people ask, well, how do you do more, right? You got to be creative, right? Me with the meme page, right? That's creativity. I think social media is the most powerful tool in that area, right? I think every wrestler should be using social media. They should be posting about wrestling consistently, because that's going to help them anyways. It's going to help them anyways, yep. And they're going to help the sport. It's doing more. You say, oh, how do I do more? That's how you do more. Post on social media. Just post.
Plaster it everywhere so it's just nonstop in people's minds. And again, it can't be just me posting it to my followers with my followers in mind, because they're already in wrestling. That's the tricky part. And I feel like wrestling hasn't understood that. We keep advertising to ourselves. We keep marketing to ourselves. We need to market outside of ourselves and make sure that we're bringing everybody in. Everybody can be in this with us.
Well, the funny thing is that you can take that theory and kind of, expand it, because, you can market to us, right? And you can build the people that are in the sport. And then you need to start marketing our attributes, right?
Mhm.
Because I'm of the opinion that there are great leaders within the sport of wrestling, people that can do well in business, people that can do well in the outside world because of what they learned in wrestling, right? There's a firm that wants me here in New York just because I am a wrestler, because they have a bunch of other wrestlers at that firm that are kicking ass, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Because of the mindset, right? There's a lot of wrestlers that do well in business, so men and women. So I think that we really need to advertise those attributes a lot more. We need to advertise, not trying to get more people, but advertise to people, how advertise our people more, right? The people that are already in wrestling, the attributes that they have, the kind of people that they are, right? Look at somebody like, the kid that just won from Stanford, right? That guy, right?
Shane Griffin.
What kind of attributes does this person have, right? This guy came from wrestling, right? That was one of the biggest things for wrestling, having us like fight tooth and nail just to stay alive, right? As a sport, right? And we've done this for years, right? They tried to take us out of the Olympics in 2012, right? Nobody remembers that. Nobody remembers that. Nobody talks about it. Nobody's vocal about it, and it pisses me off. I'm gonna be honest. Because I was devastated when that happened. When I thought it was happening when I was younger, because I still had the dream to be in the Olympics when I was younger, when I was 12 years old, right?
Mhm.
And so that was a big hit to me, and I was just hoping that something would happen that would change it, and it did, right? And we fought to get it back in the Olympics, and then we fought again. Because they tried to kick it out of the Olympics again, right?
Yep.
And we just keep fighting, and we need to be more vocal about those things that have happened to our sport that make us different from other sports. So
It separates us. We are fighters, and that's the biggest attribute about wrestlers. We are fighters, and
exactly.
I say this all the time. We are fighters, and we're fighters in a different way. We're fighters on the mat. We're fighters off the mat. And, we can be fighters off the mat and be successful businessmen, businesswomen, and fight for what's right. I feel like that's the biggest piece too, fighting for what's right, what we believe in, fundamentally believe in. And those things carry on for everyone.
Anything is possible.
Anything's
It's one of the things that we fight for every day. Every day I fight for that. Anything is possible. And then you're absolutely right. Fighting for what you believe in. I fight for what I believe in every single day, and that's anything is possible. And I think that a lot of wrestlers have that same mentality. A lot of wrestlers have just adopted it. And I see passion kind of shared among a lot of other wrestlers. We have something that is unique because we do something that is extremely hard, and we do not get paid anything to do it, right? And that creates this bond between all of us, because we all understand that. We all understand that. And you won't see that on other sports. You just don't, because it's just not the same dynamic.
Right.
Which is kind of like it's funny, because that kind of makes it like a two-sided coin, because now when we grow, maybe we start getting paid. That kind of takes away some of that, so we have to kind of play with that too.
Yeah, that's a very interesting thing to put. It will change the whole dynamic of what people expect, because right now we're expecting nothing. people are doing this stuff and expecting absolutely nothing in return, and there's something to be said about that. I think that's the one thing that always attracted me to wrestling. There was no strings attached, and then once money gets involved, though, you're right, things start changing. Are there going to be strings attached to this? And we'd have to preserve. I feel like that's something you'd have to preserve. We'd have to preserve that part of wrestling where we don't give up that innate ability to keep working hard as if we're not expecting anything in return.
Yep. I talked about this earlier too. one of the attributes that wrestlers all get, one of the attributes that wrestlers all get is how to develop intrinsic motivation, right? As opposed to extrinsic motivation. And that's something that I really, really learned even before the 6 months, right? That was something that was ingrained in me because I had to figure out a way to motivate myself other than all those external motivations that all the other sports have, because I did not have it in wrestling. So my motivation had to come from within. Wrestlers' motivation has to come from here. That's how we're different, is that everybody else gets to have all this other fanfare, gets to have people that like the stuff they do, signing stuff all the time. And, there's the money and then there's the fame and everything. And we don't get any of that, every motivation, has to come from here. And I think that's why I'll leave it off from that, because I think that's a really important point. But, I wanted to make sure that I went over all the important points for anybody that's still here, to kind of give a summary of what I went over at first is that 90% of my success in the last 6 months has come from mindset. And it's cliche to say, you're like, oh, it's 99% mental. You've heard it before. But just because it's cliche doesn't mean it's not true, right? It's not all black and white. Just because it's cliche doesn't mean it's not true. And that one is true. That one is true. It is 99% mental. 99% of my success in the last 6 months has come from here. It's come from the time that I spent figuring out what I want and why I want it, and then taking that and creating a plan. So that is one of the most important things that you can take away from this.
That's amazing, Jesse. I really appreciate you coming on here and sharing your insight. And if anybody wants to work with Jesse one-on-one and with some mindset training, he works with Z Mindset. You can contact Jesse directly. And I'll, when I upload this and share this, I'll share that info in the description and everything. But this has been an amazing podcast with you. Wednesday, this is real Wednesday wisdom right here, folks. I mean, you're not going to hear many athletes, open up like this. I feel like, when I saw you and I heard you speak after the Olympic trials, I was just amazed by the things you're saying, because you don't hear people talk like that through wrestling. And so I feel like this platform for you, it's going to grow. What you're doing is going to grow when more people start realizing the things that you're saying are extremely helpful and useful to get them to where they want to be, like you have done. So I really appreciate your time. And there's one question here, though, that I want to ask you on here. How do you feel about wrestling being incorporated in so many other sports like BJJ, MMA?
Yeah. I think it's a good thing. I think that, that's another issue that people are not being more vocal about this. We're not actually getting the recognition for the UFC fighters that we're creating, right? We are creating a lot of success in a lot of other places, business, the UFC, all these other areas. All these people come from wrestling, right? They all come from wrestling, but nobody's being vocal about it. Wrestlers are bred to just work hard and let the hard work just do the talking, right? But sometimes that's not enough, right? Sometimes you need both. Sometimes both is actually what's going to amplify, right? That's what's going to amplify what you're doing. And it's having the confidence to speak it, right? Because you're going to do it, right? That's something that moves. That's something that moves people. And I think that, like I said, people aren't being vocal enough about, all these wrestlers that are coming into the UFC and kicking ass, right? We need to be more vocal about that. We need to let people know, like, hey, they all come from wrestling, right? And more wrestlers should be looking for opportunities to teach, MMA fighters, because they're going to be looking for this. What we know is valuable.
Yeah.
The skills that we are learning, they will use in the UFC to make millions of dollars, right? Our skills are valuable. Bottom line, that's what I want wrestlers to know. Our skills are valuable. People are taking them, right? And they're not really saying thank you, and they're making millions of dollars from it.
Yep. Pay the athletes, pay the wrestlers. We demand.
Exactly. Put it on a sign. Picket it.
Exactly. All right, Jesse, I appreciate your time. Thanks again for joining us, and I'll catch up with you soon. We'll have you on again.
Absolutely.
All right,
See you
man.
later.
Have a good night.